day to you, Internet, and welcome to Strictly Game Boy, the podcast that fits in your hand. I'm your host, Bryan, and I am joined by my co-host, Clay.
Hello.
Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day, Clay.
And to you as well, good sir.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an honor to hear you say that.
Yeah, man. We celebrated St. Patty's Day together last night a little bit, actually.
Indeed. It was a little preemptive. We had our little green hats on and
We did.
played some Kirby.
We did.
That was fun.
That was
the new
great.
Kirby game.
Had the lady friends over.
The lady friends. Ooh, that's
Yes.
a hotter way to say it.
Our women's.
Mm-hmm. Woman's, if you will.
Women's.
Yes. Played a little Super One More Jump. That was fun.
Yeah, that's a little sleeper hit right there.
That was really, yeah. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that game.
Nice. Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, go look it up if you have a Switch, because it's a cool game.
It's a cheap little game, too.
Yeah, $7
I think I'm going to get it
for a great platformer.
here very soon.
But Kirby's great, too.
Kirby is pretty fun.
Can't wait till we can talk about Kirby on the show here, because I love Kirby.
We'll get to it. Don't worry. It'll happen. And there'll probably be more of us.
The anticipation is killing me.
Well, it's okay, because you get plenty of lives.
Well, Kirby's a great game. Are we talking about some great games today, Bryan?
Oh, yes. We do have a wonderful episode for you today. Today we are taking a look at Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters 1, 2, and 3 for the Game Boy Color. Probably be focusing really on one of them, but we will be discussing all three, so let's go. All right, so to start off, like we all know the Tony Hawk franchise. I think they're excellent games. 1 and 2. I didn't play much of 3, but
3 was good after you made the console jump. Like,
right.
If you played 3 on the N64 or the PS1, it wasn't so great. But on the PS2, which is where I played it, it really was a legit, amazing, solid game.
Yeah, you got to see like more of Bam Margera's face in that one.
Everybody was asking for it.
Right.
They finally gave it to us.
You know, it looked bad on the PS1 and the N64. So
That's true.
yeah.
Actually, the biggest thing about 3 was you got to play as Darth Maul, which was like...
Is that the Darth Maul one?
Yeah.
Spider-Man is 2, right?
Right.
Okay.
And so as soon as they added Darth Maul, I was like, you can't beat that.
It's
dude.
over.
Like, they tried to add, I think, Jango Fett in one of the following games after that. I was just like, okay, it's kind of cool, but it's not Darth Maul.
I mean,
cool.
why even make games after that? You know,
Right.
It's just over.
But so those console games were great, but
yes.
they had these things that they don't like to speak of.
I mean, nobody really knows how to speak about them, I think.
They're kind of the ugly stepchildren that get locked away in the cellar, and try to be forgotten. In fact, just like trying to look up information on the internet in 2018 that has to do with these versions for the Game Boy Color, there isn't a whole lot there, especially as the later games and the Game Boy Advance ones were coming out. Is like, I was surprised they still kept making these Game Boy Color ones because nobody wanted to play them or talk about them.
Well, I mean, you're going to get a sucker here or there. I'm pretty sure that the development story is probably not as interesting as the console versions or even the GBA versions. I'm sure people have written articles about those because those are incredibly well received.
Yeah.
I played a lot of 2 on GBA.
Nice.
But 1, 2, and 3 are like afterthought. Your grandma bought it for you because she didn't know any better.
Yep.
Or you were just that hard. Like, okay, so for me, I didn't own Tony Hawk until a little bit later, but I loved it, and I think I ended up buying 1 because I just was like, let's just see what it is.
Yeah.
So they were successful in that regard. 1 and 2 were created by Natsume, and I'm pretty sure it's Natsume Atari, which would be the original Japanese branch of Natsume. At this point, they were just making like ports or knockoff sports games, WWF games.
Oh yeah,
stuff like that. But they made 1 and 2, which, depending on who you talk to, are the better of the 3.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and we'll get more in depth with it.
Right.
But I think each game did something different. Whether or not they did it better or worse, none of them are really the same.
Yeah.
In any capacity other than their skateboarding games. But
I'm wondering if they pumped one out as fast as possible, because one was released in March of 2000 and two was released in November of 2000.
Right.
So I'm wondering if they spent more time on two and just quickly threw one out there, because one is very bare bones.
Yeah, because the original Tony Hawk came out for PlayStation August of 1999. So, with the N64 following in February of 2000. So, yeah, I think
When did the Dreamcast one come out?
June 2000.
Okay, so it was late. All right.
So I think the initial PlayStation one was a big hit, and so they're like, oh crap, we gotta keep pumping these out.
Oh, it was immediate. It was
Right.
an immediate success.
So that would actually make sense that they were like, let's just get something out.
Yeah, and then work on. I'm sure they were. I don't know. This is just me saying. I'm sure they were developed side by side. One got more time.
Totally. I guess the only way I would see myself if I was a kid playing these, I think I would have enjoyed them if I didn't have the actual console versions. Excuse me. This kind of reminds me of when I got Donkey Kong Land and I kept trying to compare it against Donkey Kong Country. And they're just, not the same. And I think as a kid, I just wanted the exact, just a handheld version of the console version.
Yeah.
And so, but if I was a kid and I didn't have the original Tony Hawk and I got this, I would at least feel like I could be a part of the conversation, maybe.
Or you would hope.
Right. Or be like, oh, guys, I got Tony Hawk. Like,
Yeah, I've been playing it.
I know what you're talking about. And
Yeah, here we are. I did a ollie.
Or maybe if you're a kid and you were completely obsessed with Tony Hawk and your parents made you go on a summer vacation, maybe taking one of these 3 games would kind of satisfy that I miss my Tony Hawk.
Or like I said, you would hope. You would hope to yourself, maybe this will be good enough.
But back then, maybe it was.
That itch.
Nowadays, I don't think it is, but maybe back then it was. I don't know, but
As someone who owned it, it wasn't.
okay. Well, there you go. Well, so that's fine.
It as far as whether it's like a port or an original, which we said we wanted to kind of touch on each episode and each game. A lot of Game Boy games are a cross of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they try and implement as many of the ideas from a certain game, that it's inspired by or has the license of, or, with any Game Boy game. Trying to fit as many of those mechanics in there with the limitations they have. These are no exception. As we go through them, we'll see them go from like simple games to completely stripped down games to try and push the limitations that the system has. It's kind of weird how the 3 games are completely different. They each try and do something, take liberties and be as close to the source material in different ways. I don't know. It's weird to see all 3 of them like back to back, playing them like in the same day.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't help doing them back to back.
No, but it like I said, I don't know. It's just interesting.
But I felt the same way when I reviewed all 3 Tony Hawks on Strictly 64 back in the day, and we literally played them all back to back. And so this is kind of giving me deja vu of doing that. It was a bit more of an enjoyable experience doing it on the N64.
Well,
even
one is fun.
You mean on the console?
Yeah, 64. Tony Hawk 1 is fun. Tony Hawk 1 on the Game Boy is not very fun.
That's true. If I had to pick a favorite out of the 3, I'd probably pick 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
I think I skipped 1 on the console originally when I was a kid. I don't think I had it until later. I kind of went back and got it. So really for me it started at 2, but
I'm more competitive at 1.
okay.
If we put Tony Hawk 1 64 cart in, I can hang with everybody. But if you put 2 in and you start adding all the things that make 2 great, like reverts and manuals,
Yeah. Okay.
I start to fall behind everybody.
I get that.
I'm not as good at grinding, but I can I can definitely squeeze every single point out of a vert event.
Nice.
So, you know.
Okay, that makes sense. Fair enough. All right, so real quick, I know you kind of already hit on yours, Brian, but I'll hit my history of the game real quick. With the 3 games, excuse me. I haven't played any of these up until now. I think I might have some of them in my basement, believe it or not. I think my buddy sold them to me. He was like, I don't want these. Let's trade or sell them or something.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll take it. I like Tony Hawk. And so I think I have them in my basement, but I didn't pull them out for this. But
Yeah, they're probably not very hard to come by.
yeah, no, I've seen them in the wild sitting there for $3 or $4 probably. So, but yeah, I just didn't play these versions back in the day.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to hit? I know you already kind of hit your history with it.
Oh, well, I guess I'm pretty sure that I bought Tony Hawk 1 just out of desperation as a under 15-year-old, or probably, I guess I would have been like 15-ish at this time. But I don't know as how we ended up with Tony Hawk 2 for the Game Boy Color. I am not sure. I think my little brother might have gotten that, because after playing Tony Hawk 1, I was just like, nope, I don't need to play any more Game Boy Color Tony Hawk games. I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
But Tony Hawk 2 somehow made it into the house, so that's why I'm thinking maybe my little brother had begged for it, because at that point I'm pretty sure I had Tony Hawk for 64, so I didn't need a Game Boy,
right.
To stave off that like want and desire to play Tony Hawk.
Totally.
And then I never touched 3. I didn't even know 3 existed until we were looking into this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So, yeah.
Real quick, we talked about Natsume. Did we talk about Hot Gen?
So, no, we did not. I was going to, get into that when we got to 3.
Well, we can save it then if you want.
Yeah, because I want to talk about 1 and 2, and then, wow, do I want to talk about 3.
Okay.
And I figured we should get to Hot Gen. Hot Gen developed 3.
Yes.
Did a lot of Game Boy Color work in the early 2000s, but yeah.
A lot is a strong word.
Well, a lot of their catalog is Game Boy Color.
Yeah,
about
almost
that?
all of it. Yeah, that's true. Okay, well we can talk about them later then. So.
Okay. And now it's time for this week's song of the week. And welcome back from the Song of the Week. This week's song was from the Game Boy Color version of Mario Tennis.
Nice.
Which is different from the 64 version in that it's an RPG, really.
Yeah. That's right.
So you level up your racket and your gear, and can pick between things to give you more power but make you slower, or whatever. It's very the portable ones are a lot like that. I think on the Game Boy Advance they were the same way. They weren't just a straight arcade sports game. They were deeper than that. But a lot of the songs on this game are covers of the Mario Tennis 64. This one being, I think, an original.
Yeah, it doesn't remind me of anything from the N64 version.
Yeah, but I thought it was a fun little ditty.
Yeah, I like it. In fact, it doesn't ring a bell to me when I heard it, but we played it a little bit ago before we were recording, and it was already stuck in my head right after hearing it. So, it's a catchy little one. So, and it's a bit unique for the soundtrack, or for that game, I guess. Because you played some of the other ones, I'm like, oh yeah, that's from the N64. But I like this one. It's a good little choice. So, well done, Brian.
Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and move into Tony Hawk 1 for the Game Boy Color. There is not much to say about this game. It has 2 modes, half-pipe and race mode. That's basically all you get. You get half-pipe mode, which is just you in one half-pipe and trying to do as many tricks as you can.
Right.
The button layout is very simple. You can ollie. You can press a direction to do a kickflip, one of 4 directions, do a kickflip or a heel flip, or presumably 2 other kick tricks, and then you can press one of the 4 directions and the other button to do one of 4 different grabs.
Yeah.
And try to finish your trick before you hit the half pipe and don't crash. And you've got like a minute, I think, to get as high of a score as you can.
Actually, you have 55 seconds.
55 seconds.
Yeah.
Is that because it takes a second to get rolling, or
No,
they actually
you're right. It's 1 minute.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But you probably do have 55 seconds because it takes you a second to get up and moving.
No, you're right. It's totally. It's a minute. I don't know what I was looking at. I was looking at a respawn. That's what I was looking at.
Oh, okay.
Because if you crash in this game, you don't just get back up and start going again. You have to. The screen goes black, and then it kicks you to the top of the half pipe.
You just start back over again.
Exactly.
And then we'll get into race mode, which I guess is the meat of the game.
I'd say that the half pipe's more of the meat, but
see, that's what I would say too, because that's probably what I spent more time on.
Yeah.
Was what little time I spent with this game was on half pipe mode, but I feel like that they I don't know. It's kind of a race if you want to think about like the downhill jam level on Tony Hawk 1.
Yeah.
It's kind of that as a mode, but you've got stuff to grind on. Can you grind on anything?
Yes,
Wait,
you can.
You can? Okay.
Like cars and rails and things.
Okay, I thought maybe it was just ramps, but yeah, you can kind of grind on the rails on the sides of ramps. And when you do a trick move, it cuts to an illustration of a guy doing a stale fish, or I don't know, maybe a method, or
Indie air.
Indie air, yeah, indie. It's just right
indie.
In cursive underneath, like indie, or crazy extreme late 90s font, stale fish, or whatever.
It's so jarring, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It completely takes you out of the race.
Yeah, absolutely.
It black screens, then it pulls up the graphic of what they would consider to be a very detailed photo of someone doing a trick, and then it goes back to a black screen and then brings you back into your game. Granted, the black screens are like really quick, but it's like black screen, photo, black screen, race, and it really takes you out of it like super quick.
And I don't know if there's like a point system. I'm not quite sure how it works. I don't know how many points you get for quickly getting to the goal. It's like I said earlier, it feels like this game was made in 3 months, and then while they were working on a better game, quote unquote better. But yeah, it just, there's not much to Tony Hawk 1. It's pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a soundtrack, I think.
There is music in the game.
Okay,
yes.
all right. So there's that, I guess.
It's not very good.
No, actually, the Natsume ones sound a lot like 80s arcade games. Like, they're very simplistic, but no, like maybe not like as far as an arcade game, like a run and gun Contra style like NES game.
Right.
They're like action heavy. It's really weird. It's
yeah, and it just, some of them are pretty good, but
I mean, it's cool, but it's tonally just jarring, to use that word again to describe this game.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like we should be shooting helicopters and aliens down right now.
Yeah, I would say that this one is probably better than the second one soundtrack.
As far as that, I feel like I don't want to make a judgment call on either of them, but I feel like they both have the same kind of soundtrack where it doesn't fit, and it
totally
feels like, an old thing. I don't know.
But it's such a hard task, though, to come up with something that does fit when the soundtrack to the console versions are, real recordings of actual artists from that time period.
But you can still kind of ape that style. Going back to this, is the people who made this game were, Japanese people, so they were probably just handing this off to whoever their composer was in-house, and he was just making whatever he could with old-ass architecture.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree.
Or not art. Yeah, I guess architecture. Yeah, maybe that works. But yeah, I don't know. There's not too much to say about Tony Hawk 1 if we want to move into Tony Hawk 2.
Yeah, I mean, visually, it's just it's all right, I guess. It's all like you said. The top down stuff doesn't look super great. It kind of looks confusing what you're looking at.
Yeah, I've gotten stuck on a ramp and not been able to move.
That's right. You did have that little weird glitch thing happen.
Yeah, because you can't move backward. It's forward scrolling, but speed plays a factor in what you're able to do. So you can't get up a ramp because you have to have a certain amount of speed, but then you can't go backwards down a ramp because the game won't let you move backwards. So I was just stuck.
Right. Yeah, visually, the half pipe part doesn't look terrible.
But it's so limited, like is what you're allowed to do.
Well, I'm talking visually here. I'm just talking about the graphics.
Okay.
It does kind of look similar to Tony Hawk 2 on their side. Parts like I don't know if they use the same character models or whatnot, which is funny because it's this little looking person, and then the skateboard. I don't know. It's just not like to size to scale. It seems off, so it kind of feels like you're a little man on a normal size skateboard,
like one of those tech deck skateboards, but
right?
Just like a really tiny dude standing on an oversized board.
But like the backgrounds aren't bad, and there's different levels with the half pipe, and some of them are actually from like levels in the game, if not all of them.
It's supposed to be like Chicago Skate Park or something like that.
Right. And so
hey, you're in the warehouse.
Right. So on that level, they were trying to kind of make callbacks to, the other ones. So
there's that one. Let's go into Tony Hawk 2. So there's a bit more going on here. Like I said, I feel like they had a little bit more time to work on this game. It's got a career mode, free skate, so that kind of mirrors the output that was on the consoles at the time. It's got a photo album, which I'm not quite sure what that is, and then passwords, which this game does not have a battery inside. Game Boy Color games were see-through, so you could kind of see like what was going on inside the cartridge, and that was really helpful because you could see the battery that was installed on the motherboard. I don't know how that works, but yeah, you can see if your game automatically, if this game has passwords or a save file. This game has no save file, so you have to remember your password when you want to play again. But there's usually 4 objectives. There are 4 objectives per level when you're in career mode. It introduces money. It also introduces the collecting the 5 letters, SKATE.
Yes.
And as well as other just random objectives. Usually get this many points, or grind on all the taxis.
It was relatively creative. Wasn't there that one that you were trying to do that I thought was kind of unique and they didn't really have in the other games? Like do so many tricks or something?
Oh yeah, there was one that one of the later levels is just do 100 tricks. And there's at the end of each level it shows you how many tricks you did, your best trick, your best combo maybe.
Right.
Like it did that also on the console version. But yeah, it'll show you how much money you won, because what you're doing in this game is you're getting money to unlock boards and levels. So levels are unlocked by how many, and each objective is worth a certain amount of money. The lowest being 500. Later levels give you like 1,500 for doing a certain amount of, whatever the objective is.
Right. And it gives you the first 4 levels, I think, unlocked right out the gate. So you're not just on the first level like in the console one, so you can kind of move around if you're stuck.
You can get a feel for things.
In fact, because we noticed the very first level, one of the first things you can do is collect skate, and the S is to the left of where you start at the top of a quarter pipe.
And you have different characters to pick from. They all have different stats. Their boards are what give them, so you purchase better boards to get better stats.
Right.
And I mean, Tony Hawk is usually fast and has big air.
Yeah.
In any of these games. So you'd think if, that was who I played with. So you think if you've got the best base character you should be able to get that S, but you can't get over that lip to get to the half pipe where the S is. So you need to upgrade your gear just to even get that first level skate.
Right, which is just such poor design, if you ask me. Like, literally, skate is like the most basic, straightforward thing in these games, collecting it. And the fact that you can't even get the first letter on the first level right next to where you start.
It's really weird.
I don't know if that was them trying to, give you incentive to want to better your character. And then, eventually you'd be able to get to it. But I was like, this is dumb. Like, you need to be able to get the S in the first level.
It's not a bad way to give you incentive to get better, but it is a bad way to go about it, like making that a thing. Like,
put that in level 2 or 3. Don't put that in level 1.
Right, exactly. But you're trying to say, hey, you need to upgrade your stuff, but you also give the player 4 levels to mess around in to gain enough money to get their first board. I ended up just skipping the first board. As far as these 3 games go, this is the one that I actually played through all the levels.
Yeah.
In preparation for this episode.
Yeah, you definitely stuck with it even longer than I did. So props to you, sir.
It's not props. It's a matter of like.
I'm giving you props.
Oh well, thank you.
Don't diminish that.
Hey, I'm not going to diminish your desire to give me props, but I will also say that it's not that difficult because it's just a matter of like breaking the game or bending its rules, because a lot of it you can just do by grinding and like finding a path and hitting the grinds and then just ollieing twice in between each jump, and you can rack up a pretty decent combo just by doing that. Like, not like I did not play by the rules the game wanted me to play to get through this game.
You're such a rebel, dude.
Well, it's impossible. It's not a very well made game. Once you're very slow, but once you unlock like the best board, then you become too fast, and so it's hard to hit some of the objectives. So maybe they want you to switch boards, but that's also kind of a really bad way to go about it.
Yeah.
Just to get this objective, you need to downgrade your board, and then to get this objective, you need to have the best one, and it doesn't really work. It's bad design, or it's an oversight in the design, like they weren't thinking about it or something, which is probably more the case.
Do you want to know about Photo Album?
Yes, I do. Why don't you tell the folks about that?
So this is really, really interesting. If you're into this sort of thing. It's not really.
If you're into this sort of thing, though, it is.
Right. Those who enjoy Game Boy photo albums. So basically, you unlock more of them as you play through the game, I guess. Photos. I don't know if you find them, collect them, unlock them, whatever. But if you go in there through the main menu, you can see these different number of tricks. Brian, if you look on my screen here, you can see them. I only have like one, and it shows.
Yeah.
This is a front side air.
Oh yeah.
And so it's an extremely pixelated,
very classic trick
render of a character doing a front side air.
Mm-hmm.
All of the images in these are in black and white, not color.
But there's a reason for that.
There is, and what that reason is, I'm 99% sure, is that you could print them on the Game Boy printer.
Mm-hmm.
And so they made them black and white.
It's a wonderful, wonderful machine, by the way.
In case you would like to have... Could you print stickers on the printer? Or was it just pieces of paper?
I think it's just pieces of... I think it's just like receipt paper or calculator
but what do you do
roll
with,
paper.
What do you do with that?
I mean, you just marvel at the technological advancements of the 1990s.
I need to look into getting one of those. I wonder...
You should find one, yeah.
What the logistics of making one of those work. If you need like ink cartridges.
See, that was what I was thinking just now, was like, how do you refill that? I'm sure the paper you can use is...
relatively easy to...
It's probably the same kind of paper that you have in like an office calculator, that you need to print receipts off for,
right,
something like that. But as far as the ink cartridge goes, like, unless they, I don't know if they have their own proprietary cartridges, but I highly doubt that it was that sophisticated.
Yeah. All right, we can stop talking about the photo gallery now.
Yeah, we should look into the Game Boy printer. We should just have an episode about the Game Boy Color or the Game Boy camera and the Game Boy printer, because that would be interesting to figure out
Totally.
how
I'd
that
be
all
down.
worked.
Definitely the camera, and maybe we could do probably put the printer in there with
Yeah.
it rather than have it at its own. Definitely, we'll put that on the list of episodes we need to do. Can I talk about some visuals?
Yeah,
Are we
go
good
for
to
it.
that point? All right. Well, first thing right off the bat is you get a much better looking menu in this game than you do in the first one.
It's very ambitious.
It is, and if you remember in Tony Hawk 2, in the console version, you get a home screen, which is the skateboard wheel that you can turn, and it has the different menu options. And so this one does that, just that. And it does look bad. It's actually pretty impressive.
It's very comparable to the console version.
The graphics that are around the wheel, though, I don't know what any of that is. It's
no.
like shapes and things. It almost looks like they literally lifted this off the console and like remade it with way lower pixel count.
Right. So just, it's completely ambiguous as to what it is, but you're not looking at that. You're looking at the wheel and going, wow, this looks just like Tony Hawk 2.
Yes. And then you got your character select, which shows you their stats, which is definitely an upgrade from the last game.
Well, just having stats, right? Did
Right.
the characters in the last... I mean, there was a plenty of people you could pick from in one, but...
I don't think they did. And
Okay.
Maybe they did. I don't know. Then you got your boards, which is cool. It's another level of customization that the other one didn't have. And then you got your level select, which also looks like almost a complete rip of the actual console version. You got a little like globe at the bottom of the screen that shows you where those locations are located. See what I did there?
Yeah, they're trying their best to have some parity between
Right.
Tony Hawk 2, which was probably developed in concurrence with this version.
Probably. Okay, so a big thing we need to talk about with this one is there's basically two different level types.
Yes.
There's like the side scrolling, and then there's I don't even know how
They alternate between a side-scrolling 2D, like you have a straight line that you can go on, and that, and an isometric level where there's different, like you can go up and down instead of just left and right. I like the 2D ones better because they generally have half pipes and like a little. The isometric ones are basically just grinding levels or like exploratory. Like you have to find a way to get to a certain area if you jump on the right buildings.
Yeah.
So they're stripped down in a way because you take out you take out the vert, you take out the ability to do just different tricks. But in all of the levels, you're still doing the same crap. You're just trying to find a place to grind on and get a chain going. You can try and mix it up and put grabs in there and stuff, but like I said, eventually you're just going to go back to, I'm just going to find this one line I can grind on and just do ollies and see what kind of combo I can get in 2 minutes. This does introduce the 2-minute limit from the console versions.
Right.
So you've got 2 minutes to get as many of these tapes as you can, or just check marks.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to it. But visually, definitely a bigger upgrade. I know I mentioned earlier I thought that the character models from 1 were used in 2, but they actually look much better. So I would say that they definitely came a long way with those. I would agree with you. I think the side-scrolling sections are much better. It's nice in the isometric one that you can kind of go up and down a little more, but it's just hard to do with this console to make games where you can go forward and backward outside of a specific.
And you have a little bit more options as far as moves go in this game. They do add in, much like in the console ones, where you can press a direction and then another direction to do a more intricate trick.
Right.
As opposed to just holding one direction and hitting one button. Grinding is still done by just jumping on top of a rail, and if you just happen to be in the right place, you will hit it
Which is the way it should be on these games, I think.
Yeah. The reason why they're so simplistic is because there are 2 buttons and a directional pad.
Yeah, that's all you got.
So you have limitations there as to what you're able to do. But it actually works all right for what it is. Like, I think this is probably the best thing they could have come up with.
Right.
In the isometric levels, it's rough because if some of the rails are offset, and so they want you to jump from one and then like to hold up a little bit to get to the other one if you want to chain that together. But it's very I don't want to call it finicky because like it's maybe heavy-handed. Like you have to like really hold that button if you even want it to move at all, and then by that point you have completely jumped over it and gone past.
Last thing I want to say about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for the Game Boy Color is the music in this game. Now, I can't speak for all of it because I didn't play through the majority of the game like you did, Brian. But at least just speaking about level 1, the music in that level specifically is just plain obnoxious. If I could just sing a little bit of it for you. There's one part in the lead where it just goes... and it's just... Oh my gosh.
If we're going for... if we're talking about the first one, like we said, or like I had said, it felt a lot like an action shoot 'em up game.
Yeah.
These songs start to feel more like boss battles.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that.
So like you know like, oh, okay, crap. Now we're to the Crab Man now. This is the Crab Man song.
Right.
Whereas before it was like this is just generic driving like a driving melody or whatever, and now we're into like this is hectic. This is crazy. No, I'm just skateboarding. That's all I'm doing.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like it has that kind of feel to it. Both of them sound very similar. They're made by the same
and then
people.
Once we get to 3, it sounds completely different.
Oh yeah,
And,
we'll get there.
Yeah, so if you're listening at home, you will notice a big tonal shift in the audio. It sounds
That's
like
one way to put it.
Right. Well, just audio alone. Once we get the gameplay is a completely different thing too. So I think we've hit on Tony Hawk 2 plenty. We could probably move on to the third and final.
Yeah, I would agree. I think going forward we'll see that this is definitely probably the height of these 3 games, and
definitely
we'll move on.
Yes, it peaked at 2, so for sure.
I didn't know if you were gonna mess
I
with
don't know
Coda.
what else to do. He won't stop. At least he found a quieter toy. Now he wants you to play.
Yeah, I know.
Let's keep going, dude.
There you go. All right, so moving into Tony Hawk 3, let's see here. We've got a career mode, single session, free skate, high scores. Tony Hawk 3 is a little bit more impressive. Well, okay, I guess we didn't go over how many levels were in 2, but I feel like there were 4.
I wrote it down.
There were 4 that we got, and then 4 we had to unlock, maybe 3. I can't remember.
I wrote it in the show doc right there.
You said there
7 levels.
7.
4
I see it.
objectives per
Okay.
level.
Well, I'm a moron. So there were 3 to unlock. This one has 9, 3 unlocked from the beginning.
Yeah.
This time it requires points, just like the console versions. There are much more objectives, though, in this game, because the thing about Tony Hawk 3 is it's... Okay, the one thing I'll say about it, it's ambitious.
Totally.
They really, really went for it. There is an insane move list in this game, as opposed to just having 6 grab tricks. They try to include as many as they can. I'm sure certain characters have different moves that other characters can't do. It's somewhat impressive, but it's also very short-sighted. I don't think they realized just how much they were going to have to trim the game down just to get... They were trying to make like a direct parity between the two games. There's grinding, there are plenty of flip tricks, plenty of grab tricks. Manuals are in this game. It's impressive, but it's not.
Yeah.
You take a certain line, like it's isometric, but you're fixed to a point. So it's like you're on a 2D level, But then if you get to a half pipe, you can sort of steer up and move to a new area and start a new line, and that's how you explore levels.
So weird.
Yeah, because that's all they could really do, because they have, like, the graphics are completely stripped down. There is no music in the levels.
Which is so weird.
Well, because the game would chug, because everything that they've stuck in to try and make it look like a Tony Hawk game or play like an actual console Tony Hawk game will just destroy the frame rate of the game. So there's nothing here. It's the barest amount of graphics. There are sound effects for when you do moves or when you fail moves.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Yeah, I'm impressed. I don't know. It's just so strange. It's such a departure. I said I wanted to bring up Hot Gen, and I don't know really where they come from, but they did not do 1 and 2, and it seems like they had a completely different vision for the game, and I don't know if it paid off. In fact, I would say it didn't pay off.
Yeah, I don't know. It's some things they improved on, like you mentioned, grinding. Now you actually have to balance. The
balance is in this game now.
And so, like, something like that is like, oh, that's a nice addition, because before you could just infinitely grind, which for a smaller experience is actually probably better, but this provided some extra depth, which is nice. Same with the manuals. So
it adds a jump button, like because you in the other games you would press like down C to squat, and then like you would press down C to squat and then jump at the right point, like on a vert, or jump onto a rail by letting go. So they've added that jump feature into it, where you can be ready for it and then be ready to go at any moment's notice to, like, okay, now I'm jumping.
Right. So that's definitely a big improvement, the jumping in this. Yeah, just visually it's so much different. They pulled things back a little more, took a lot less detail out of the skater itself, and I assume put that towards other things visually. But for instance, Tony Hawk, the titular character of this game, has the skin tone of a
well, it's the 90s, so let's just say mulatto.
Yeah, he looks like a black man almost.
It's very weird.
And
I didn't play. Once again, I did not use any other character other than Tony Hawk. So.
Right, and so we've been looking at Tony Hawk for 2 games now, and on this third one, he's wearing a really bright turquoise shirt.
So 90s.
On a bright turquoise skateboard for some reason.
Oh, the 90s just keep on rolling in.
And then he somehow changed his skin color significantly. And so things like that, the skater looks, I think the much more cartoony look of the first 2 games worked a lot better than this. So that was kind of a downer. One thing I do like about this game is you mentioned there's a lot more objectives in this game, because if you remember in Tony Hawk 3, at least on the PS2, in the PS2 one on Tony Hawk 3, you would go up to characters and they would talk to you.
Oh, okay.
They'd be like, "Hey, do this thing," and then you'd go do it. And so, in this game, they kind of tried to do that. There aren't NPCs that you go and talk to, but there are certain objectives like wake the neighbors, or in the first one, light the furnace. So like they were trying to come up with some more creative, fun things that aren't just like get high score or
10,000 points.
Yeah, and
do a combo.
Get skate.
Or,
so I like
or
that.
stand in one corner and do 100 ollies to get past the do 100 tricks thing in 2, which is what I did.
You were really good at that.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
The fact that it gives you points for an ollie is kind of stupid. But
yeah, well, I mean, it technically counts as a multiplier, so.
I guess so. So I like that. I like that there was a little more, even if you like couldn't figure out how to do them or whatever. But honestly, the biggest hurdle for this game starting out is what Bryan mentioned, where you're on a specific axis, plane, whatever you want to call it, and you can see more level above you, behind you, whatever you want to say, and you have to figure out how to get up there to the next axis, because you're just left and right. That's it. And so it took me a while to figure it out. In fact, I went on YouTube and I was like, maybe someone knows how to do it. And I pulled up a guy playing the video, and he could not figure it out. And he literally just quit the video.
There are about like 3 Tony Hawk Game Boy Color 3 videos. And no one knows what they're doing. There's no one with like a hey, here's kind of how all of these systems work together video. It's just people going, wow, this is awful.
Well, because by the time we got to Pro Skater 3, we already had, it was on PS2, PlayStation, GameCube, Xbox, N64, Microsoft Windows, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color. So this was like the lowest of the lowest.
Yeah.
But basically, there's like a quarter pipe on each end of a level, or some levels just throw you into water if you go two of them. And so once you are approaching the quarter pipe, you have to hold the up arrow.
It's just a half pipe, but
I thought a half pipe is if you have both.
no.
Quarter pipes if you have one.
Okay, no. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay.
Come on, Brian. I
Sorry.
used to skateboard in the 90s. I know what I'm talking
I
about.
rollerbladed, so, I guess I don't know what's up.
Yeah. So you hit a pipe, and you, on the approach, you have to hold up. Not when you're on the ramp, not when you're up in the air. When you're approaching it, you have to hold up.
Mm-hmm. And then you roll through the hill and curve up and go to a different line.
I will say that animation is pretty smooth.
Yeah. I mean, of course it's smooth because the character is as bare bones as you can get.
Right.
Like, you have to make that look good. Like, they made certain concessions to create this game. The one thing I think they completely missed, I think they bit off way more than they could chew. And I understand what they were trying to do, and there are probably people out there that will think that we just don't get it. There's probably a deep game here if you can figure it out. But when it comes down to I talked about the squatting jump button being added to this. I was really excited by that because it's in 2 and 1, you just press A and you jump immediately. But it doesn't do it the same way that the consoles do, where you gain speed when you've squatted down and are getting ready to jump. You start getting faster. This one, you have to hold forward to get any speed at all in the game. When you're grinding, you will just slow to a halt. And it completely messes with the flow of the game. I don't know if that was an intentional design choice or if they just couldn't get it to work. But it really kind of ruins the feel. The other thing is that you don't jump at the top of half pipes or quarter pipes the way you would in a normal game. If you try and jump, you just end up like
off screen almost.
Off screen or going over jumping over the spine of like 2 quarter pipes together. You make a transition, I guess is what you would say.
Right.
You just have to have enough speed to get into the air, which doesn't happen often, to be able to do tricks. Grab tricks in these Game Boy Color games are almost worthless. You don't have enough time. You don't get enough air. You should just basically try and find a line to grind on, and that's about it. One of the other complaints I would have is that we're just going to keep saying the console versions over and over and over again.
We got to specify what we're talking about.
But in those, you could feasibly get every single tape in one run.
Right.
In this one, you can't, I don't think, because you have to go exploring through the level to find maybe a secret tape or to start the foundry up or to hit the valves on each wall 5 times or something. You have to just explore the level and like, I guess you could get points along the way. Maybe there's someone out there that can get all of the tapes in one run, but I feel like you have to go back in and start over again just to get certain things done, and that's not good design for a Tony Hawk game.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, you should be able to just knock this game out in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I applaud them for trying, and I just think that the 2-button thing, there's just still too many limitations. You need to like hit both A and B at the same time to grind, and if you let go of one of them, you jump off the rail.
Right.
There's not enough buttons to make this work. 2 more buttons, like the Game Boy Advance versions, would make everything better.
Yeah, I feel for Hot Gen who made this. I feel like Natsume should have just finished out the third game and kept building off what they had already created. Because I imagine these guys probably had to start from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
So
clearly.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. And so maybe by this point, Natsume was like, we're done with the Tony Hawks on the Game Boy.
Or
Color.
Activision was like, we need someone to translate this better to make it feel more like the proper Tony Hawk games.
Maybe, I guess. I didn't really
because
think that way.
that's what this is. It feels like I said, if you can figure out all the limitations and you spend enough time with this game, you could probably do some impressive crap. But it's just not it's not all there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think. All right, so visuals, anything else that we should hit on with that you can think of?
No, it's the visuals are sacrificed in order to make this all work. That's what I would say. That's my big takeaway from this game.
Yeah.
Everything is stripped down as far as possible. Audio, everything is stripped down. There are sound effects, and that's about it. Even the menu music is.
It's a cheap NES game, is what that sounds like.
It's.
Like, I probably won't play much of this during the episode because everybody will turn this off.
But I mean, you'd think in menus, the one part where you don't need anything else going on and you could make an interesting song, that's where you would just at least make an interesting menu song. But no, it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
It sounds like a bad Data East game.
Totally. I can hear that. So yeah, not strong in a lot of areas. Anything else we need to cover with these three? I mean, we could give our final thoughts here unless there's anything else you feel like we overlooked.
I mean, it's an interesting experiment. A lot of the 90s, as far as like video game critics were concerned, was they dismissed the Game Boy. If you go back and look at the thoughts of people writing for magazines or even websites in the late 90s, nobody likes Game Boy games. Nobody liked portable gaming. Maybe with like the Neo Geo Pocket Color, like people started to sunny up to the idea of them, and then definitely by the time the Game Boy Advance. But even then, like the early Game Boy Advance years, people were still warming up to the idea of portable games. So
yeah,
I mean, I'm impressed with what they managed to pull off in 3. I think 2 works okay. 1 is just it's like E.T. They just crammed it together. They had little time to do it, but I don't know. I think it just shows where portable gaming ports were at the time. It's just a cash grab for the people who weren't making quality, well thought out, understanding the limitations of the medium. People that weren't making those kinds of games, they're just whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it sounds like we're being overly negative with these, and I mean, maybe if we had been there and seen what they had to work with, it'd be a little more understandable. I honestly don't know how much better they could have made these things. There's little things they could probably have changed that would have helped, but like for what they had, I feel like they did a relatively okay job. Like,
for their vision, yeah.
Right.
Like this is the game we're gonna make.
Yeah.
And we're gonna focus on these things and make it the best we can. And yeah, they like I said, I'm really impressed with 3. I just don't think I have the patience to figure out their vision for it and to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you've been listening this whole time, you would probably realize we would mostly recommend 2. If you really want to try these games, I'd say if you really want to check these games out, I would just stay away from 1 and 3. Maybe check out 2.
I would say if you like actually want to put a bunch of time, like for whatever reason you want to torture yourself and put a bunch of time into one of these, I would try 3.
I disagree completely, 100%.
But if you're just gonna play, and if you just want to beat one of them, play 2, because 2 is more fun than 3 is right out of the gate. It's easier to deal with. It has music. It's enjoyable, I guess. But I would say don't play any of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, unless you're really like, oh, I love Tony Hawk, I want to see what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you got to decide.
Stay away from 1 at all costs.
Yeah, there's just not enough there to really.
Don't go there.
Yeah, don't go there, girlfriend.
No, back off.
Sit back and chill, homie, while we pay the bills.
Super Mario Land, Game Boy, F1 Race, Game Boy, don't forget your Tetris, and Dr. Mario in your face. With all the great games you can get for a Game Boy, you better believe you can spend your whole life playing Game Boy, Game Boy! Socket a walking a pocket a muppet a Game Boy, Game Boy!
It's your power to go, man.
Man,
Oh goodness, is it the power that makes you go, or is it your power but into a to go format?
sorry, I don't know what just happened.
Um,
Ask that again.
Well, I think we both kind of just came to after that commercial.
That's true. I just came out of a Game Boy coma of montage and graphics and
Wow, that was intense.
yeah. Unfortunately, if you're listening to this, you can't exactly see what just happened.
You don't really need to see much. It's just some 10-year-old child being with the voice of like a 30-year-old
yeah, like
trying to sound like a 20-year-old.
a metal singer guy.
Yeah, coming out of, he is like the medium for that. It's weird. It's really weird.
But that's an intense commercial, man. Like they throw a lot at you real quick.
You've got a live action actor and cartoons superimposed over them.
Mm-hmm.
Tetris pieces flying everywhere. For whatever reason, F1 Racer getting top.
Yeah, it was like one of the first games they mentioned.
Yeah, like
before Tetris.
seriously, I think Tetris was one of those like, well, you already know you're getting Tetris, so
Right.
why don't we talk about Mario Land and F1 Racer?
Yeah,
That classic game.
the audio wasn't too great on that one. It is from a YouTube video, so it was literally the only version I could find of it. Like I could not find this commercial anywhere else except for whoever posted this one.
We need to petition Nintendo to just start releasing old commercials on
And, like-
Blu-ray or something.
Yeah, like in really good quality.
yeah.
I would love to have a good quality version of this song.
Let's get on that. That's our next project.
Yeah, we're just gonna cover it.
Start writing them letters every week.
Yeah, but luckily for those listening, really this commercial is all about that amazing song and just
Game Boy.
how catchy it is.
You could spend your whole life playing Game Boy.
That's what it says.
If you have 4 AA batteries, then yeah, you're good.
This kid's face is so weird. He's just, and at one point it just goes to na.
Yeah,
They're just like completely tripped out on drugs by that point.
like there's nothing left to say other than to just mumble a few of the letters that are in the word Game Boy.
They're like, we need to finish these lyrics and quick.
We've got
They need
30
them
seconds
today.
to fill, and we can't write anything better.
We could just like mumble some syllables. That'll work.
Yeah, it's the By Menon style of writing commercial slogans.
Yes. Another interesting thing worth mentioning at the beginning, there's a kind of cartoon version of Mario.
In like his underwater sub or something.
Yeah,
like
he
that.
jumps into his underwater
World
sub
3.
and he waves and drives away. I'm not completely well versed in Game Boy and Nintendo art assets. Maybe by the end of the show we will be, but I've never seen that before, so I don't know exactly what that would be from. If
It's I think it's just probably the box art animated. It seemed like box art
Kinda.
Mario Land.
but they even did it with Dr. Mario. He's got his own little
that's
animation.
right, Dr.
with,
Mario's in here. This okay, so if Dr. Mario's in this commercial, this is an interesting choice of games. I think that was like 1990, 1991, so
yeah,
Game Boy had been out for a little bit at this point. There was no reason to explain what it was. It was just, all right, you know what this thing is. Let's sing this dumb hair metal song about it and Game Boy and scream that a few times. You already know you want this thing. Here's some games
yes.
like F1 Racing.
But this is definitely like a coming off a Game Boy fueled drug high, and you're just coming off it, and you're just seeing cartoons come to life. And
They woke up the next day and looked at what they'd written, and they're like, well, that wasn't much, but we got to get this done. So,
yep.
yeah, okay.
Not the best commercial, but a good one. I'll give it a thumbs up just for the music alone.
Just for trying.
And maybe the animation. The little cartoon things were pretty cool. So
yeah, at this point we're well into where the Who Framed Roger Rabbit tech was probably cheap enough that you could just do that in a 30-second spot and make it work, because that's basically what they're going for. Well, we can put a live child and cartoons on his face. Okay, cool. Make it done, Jenkins. Make it so,
man. All right, cool. Yeah, that's good, man. That was a good commercial. Look forward to seeing more and more of these as we go through.
Oh, they're gems, all right. But hey, so that brings us to the end. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode. If you want, you can find more of our episodes on the NintendoVillage.com. We are also on the Nintendo Village YouTube, as well as iTunes. So join us next episode for more Strictly Game Boy.
See you guys.
Hey, Clay.
Hey.
You have a good one.
You too.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, check out some of our other videos, and visit thenintendovillage.com, your home for everything Nintendo.